Do you think John Key has damaged his chance of doing a coalition deal with you with his policy announcement today?
It depends. I've got to still read our people to see whether that is a possibility or not. We don't even know whether we've got it. Because remember when Don Brash gave his speeches, it really, really hardened our people against National.
It was one of the most, I think, disappointing moments in recent New Zealand political history.
Don's left now, and John Key is the leader, and we've had 3 years working with them and against them in the House. So it is a new ball game, but at the end of the day, our people would tell us whether that's a possibility or not, and what kind of possibility it might be.
Chris Trotter in yesterday's Sunday Star Times column got very angry and it alludes to the Maori Party treaty partnership as some sort of de facto Maori upper house in Parliament. Is that a fair representation of the Maori Party's desire for a treaty partner?
Look, we're waiting for the ultimate solution to come, and I think Maori Party has to be active in the next 3 years, setting up forums to have this discussion. Quite clearly, it's a constitutional issue of where does the treaty fit in our future. Yeah. And we're going to be a republic one day, and so we should prepare for that now, not wait till the last minute and try and fit the treaty in. Yep. I think that's and Maori have to come to terms with whether they want it to be a law in terms of LAW, or how can they make it a LORE law to sit alongside of parliamentary paramount law.
So you would see in any constitutional makeup in the future of New Zealand, the treaty has got to be central to that?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And in its finest sense, if you like, without being losing its mana under legislation.
And that would be, and the mana would be LORE.
Yes, indeed. Law. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
The narrative of John Key is that he is a moderator who wants to broaden the National Party well beyond its current base to win the 2011 election by going into coalition with the Māori Party. He's even said he would attempt that if he won an outright majority. How can the Māori Party put the brakes on National's less centrist politicians? Could you douse their passion for privatisation?
I think we have to. I mean, that is something we would fight against. And, the alienation of our assets and all those kind of things are things that we would fight to death over. Yeah. That's why perhaps coalition might be optimistic, with that group. Yeah. And let's be clear about this. We're still talking to the other group, to Labour, and to us, as Hone would say, one's as bad as the other. Yeah,
we've had it on the show. You see, the only difference between the two was one stabs you in the front, one stabs you in the back.
So, so we've got to sort of work through that whole thing. Yeah.
Can Tariana work with Helen?
Oh, yes.
Is that something that can happen?
That's,
it's just the media beat up the relationship?
Yeah, and if there was any aggro there, it disappeared after the first year. Right. And we've had a series of meetings, and they're very good, very amicable.
What would you require from Labour in terms of if you're looking at coalition deals with National and maybe the bottom lines are repeal the foreshore seabed, dumping the desire to scrap the Māori seats? What sort of benchmarks are you looking with Labour? What would they need to put on the table?
Yeah, I think it would be a different way of delivering the current services that are delivered more than any of our deep structure stuff. That Māori health authorities and organisations, Ropu Hauora, that they get a bit more money and a bit more power to do the thing. And that kaupapa Māori education is not just a lip service, but a reality. Because over the past number of years, we have not been training speakers of Māori as kaupapa Māori teachers. The growth has stopped. So has the support base. So that boards are having arguments with their staff, teachers are walking out, and then it needs a real resources in behind it to support it. Look, it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea, one, to save the language, but secondly, it's visionary. These people feel like they're really succeeding, and they can see a future where they're speaking two languages. Look, the graduates of kaupapa Māori schools are everywhere. We've got doctors, lawyers. Just about every young Māori in the media has come through a kaupapa Māori school, and yet it's so recent. So obviously there's real advantages there, and it's a pity that the government hasn't got in behind it in a bigger way.
That touches back on my earlier question about te reo in school and being compulsory. Would that be something that you would be pushing for? That you would want through all state schools? It's the official language. It's one of the official languages of New Zealand. That te reo is made compulsory.
But you see, that depends on the teachers
Right.
that are not there. We don't have enough quality teachers right now to handle kohanga, kura kaupapa and wānanga at this stage, plus the high school, state school classes.
Okay.
So we need 1,000 teachers.
And so to get to that position, what sort of funding would you require now to get the teachers involved?
It's enormous, because you see some of the best speakers of Maori, because Maori language is not out of the woods yet.
Right.
You've got to have people who can stand up and talk about the combustion engine, Halley's Comet, all those deep structure things fluently off the top of their head like that, not just have a conversation about who won the rugby and so on. And we don't have that situation at the moment. There's not a myriad of speakers can do that. So the people that can teach, who have those skills, many of them are driving trucks now. Many of them are in a small business or something. We have to attract those people into the teaching thing, and it's going to be a bit more expensive than giving them a loan.
So it would require the type of leadership that saw, from one of the political parties, that saw the birth of Maori TV. That kind of push for resources.
Totally, that push for resources, because a lot of these people would have mortgages and things already, and yet they are the very people that could save our language.
What would the Māori Party want in return for a deal with National? A repeal of the foreshore and seabed, dumping of the desire to scrap the Māori seats? Yourself as Minister of Māori Affairs?
No, I don't think that is necessarily a possibility. I think the Māori Affairs structure that they have now may not be the appropriate structure to deliver best to Māori. Perhaps, let's face it, for development, Labour had a good policy of closing the gaps.
Yes.
National kicked up about it, and everyone threw it away.
Yep.
Now there's no talk about gaps.
And that
everyone knows that.
Wasn't it interesting? That was
brilliant.
Actually working.
It was because it realised what was the problem, and it dealt with it.
Yeah.
Now they've got to get back to that bit of honesty to say, look, there are gaps. What can we do to close those gaps? And I think that's either National or Labour have got to come to the fore and show us how they're going to do that.
Right. Finally, in the light of today's National Party policy, do you trust John Key today more than you trust Helen Clark?
Well, see, I was asked that question on another channel, and the reality is, for us, you build the trust in a relationship, and we haven't had that privilege or honour or whatever you call it, or that experience to be in a relationship with them where we have to trust and work together and build together. Yeah. We have very good relations in talks, and the table's wide open to go any which way, or no way. There's definitely that available. So the trust thing is something that you build up. But I'll tell you what, once we do have an arrangement, we will expect complete loyalty, because we will give complete loyalty.
Pita Sharples, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Tēnā koe.
Cut.
Hey,
Yep, swear it is.
Do you want to screen this to do this or not?
No.